Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Bubba Alamo coming at you from a new location. This is the Redoubt, that's what we're calling it. Bubba Alamo, and had to vacate the regular lair and ended up in a temporary undisclosed location until we find permanent residence. So from now on, any new videos I make, unless further updated, will be from the Redoubt. So I thought I'd do a video. I haven't done one in a while. To my dedicated subscribers on Patreon and GunTube and some of the other channels, you'll notice that we have a piece of wood here today. And this is a very interesting piece of wood. It's very old. As you can see, it's very long. It's about 72 inches long, I believe. It's very thick, about 4 inches thick. And I bring this out here today because this is a very beautiful piece of curly maple that, with a little time and a little sanding, and a little more sanding and some sanding after that, and when you're done with sanding you can do some more sanding, it's going to turn into this. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a very beautiful contemporary long rifle, made in 1998 by myself under the tutelage of a gunsmith. I'm not going to mention his name because he doesn't like to be, brought out into the open. But this rifle is as I said, it's a Virginia rifle. It has some beautiful carving in the stock here. You can see beautiful scrolls, and you can see that beautiful tiger striped maple in here. And this gun started off just like that stock blank, and was a project that I began and finished. Took about 2 years of working on weekends. The wood is gorgeous. You can see the tiger striping. It's really beautiful all the way out to the end. And so it was a project. I learned quite a bit about gunsmithing and about how traditional gun makers built their guns back in the 1700s by doing this. The one thing, I think my biggest takeaway was that each gun that they made was about 700 hours of labor, and that's about what I put into this. I think I logged 766 hours on this gun. The stock started just like that big wood block that I showed you, and then we narrowed it down to this skinny thing here. This wood that's right around the barrel isn't much more than as thin as a piece of paper. It's very, very delicate. Coming back here into the wrist, it's a Virginia design, which means it's very narrow here in the wrist, wider than it is long. But then it has a very nice, what they call Roman nose double curve. It comes down here and then it breaks again down here. So it has kind of, the lines on it are two curves that come all the way down. It's a 40 caliber. So the next one that I build, I think I'm going to build a little bigger caliber. The barrel is a swamped barrel, which means that it starts off thick here, it gets really thinner here, and then it thickens up again towards the muzzle. And that's to kind of cut down on weight. It was made by a gentleman in North Carolina. I don't think they're making barrels any longer, but it's a pretty highly prized barrel here. The lock is the lock maker's name is it's a Dur's egg lock. Very small. It's actually advertised as a pistol lock, but the gun itself fits right. It's the style of it is John Angstat is the gun maker that it's styled after, and it's actually pretty plain. Most of his original ones would have inlays all the way down the barrel and star back here in the stock and whatnot, but this one is a fairly plain example. We didn't do a whole lot of inlays on it. The most inletting, I think, goes into the patch box here. The patch box was just a piece of brass that we cut out and then shaped it right, carved it, inletted it into the wood, which took awfully long time to do. Each one of these pieces, the trigger guard, the lock plate, the butt plate, the brass patch box, each one of the thimbles on there, it takes several hours to install. The butt plate itself, I think, took me about 15 hours to install and put in there. Yeah, it's one of the very first things that you put in there after you find out where your center line is. You install that, make it match up with the barrel. The barrel itself came and it was unfinished, and I had to go and sand down each flat on this all the way around the gun. Took me several weeks just to work on the barrel, sanding it down, starting with 200 grit, going down to 400 grit, 600 grit, and then steel wool until it was absolutely perfect in shape. And then we inletted it in, and I got some rust there. Inletted it into the wood, and then we and then had to put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out a bunch of times while we were building it. And then once we got down to the final shape, we, sanded the wood, we browned it and then installed it into the gun for the final time. And browning it means we had to heat it up with a blowtorch and then put oil on it to give it that color, and keep heating it and keep putting oil on it until it got this rust brown color, which is very traditional. The wood itself is actually really interesting. The way it was finished was we made a special mix of stain that had some very, very fine iron filings in it, almost like sand, very, very, very light, powdery iron filings. And then what we did is, after the stain soaked into the wood, then we went over it with a hot poker over the edge of it here, and that turned all of those iron filings that were in the stain to this red color. That's what gives it this reddish brown color. That's a very traditional stain that was done during the 1700s on a lot of these guns. Super accurate. I like to point out on the sights, the front sight especially, which is right there, you'll see that it has not been filed. It has not been touched. And that's because when we took it out to the range, we fired one shot through it, the first shot, and at 50 yards, the patch round ball went right through the center of the bullseye. The sights were right on when we took it to the range. I've never had a gun, built from scratch like that. That was just perfect. And so we never touched the sights. Once we fired the gun, we did 3 shots and had a nice little cloverleaf group at 50 yards over a bench. And then we never touched the sights. And to be honest with you, I think the gun shoots a lot more accurate than I can shoot it. And shooting a flintlock is a really different experience. If you know anything about firearms, you know that the flintlock here, you dump a little bit of powder in there, throw the frism down like that, and pull the trigger, and sparks rain down inside here, make a flash, and it goes, and it's pretty quick. This is very fast lock, but it's still hard to shoot accurately because there is a delay between the time you pull the trigger and the time the gun goes off. This gun, when primed right, the delay is minimal. It shoots pretty quick, but it's still quite a delay. Sort of like a whoosh bang when you shoot it. But the gun is probably my biggest pride and joy, and this is one of those guns I will never sell. There is a story about it. I did take it down to a collector's firearms in Houston, and I wanted to sell it so that I could buy my wife an engagement ring. And the guy who owned the shop refused to buy it from me. Said he was doing me a favor, and he was, which is kind of funny. He actually was. I never sold it, and I'm really happy that he did me that favor. Anyway, that's all from the readout. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hopefully we'll be back with some more. Take care. Have a great